Today I'm going to be animating this watercolor and gouache painting that I made, so sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Supplies that I'm using today are a glass dip pen with Caligraphy Ink, the Daniel Smith Primatek watercolor set, as well as M-Gram's honey-based gouache. I was inspired today by spring, so thought I'd celebrate a little bit early, but as well as some of the most beautiful Sakura paintings I've seen on the internet. And I did try to start this out by doing a really cool looking tree right in the middle. But then I proceeded to put the little pond right in front of it, which I didn't draw it to be that way. So it doesn't really look that good. So I ended up turning that tree into like a river later down the road. As random in shape as a lot of trees can be, for whatever reason, they're so hard to draw. You think that'd make it easy, but anyway, every day is a learning experience and we're just taking it one day at a time at Kozzie Tea. Color-wise, I'm going to be doing what would be typical here. The grass is going to be green, the wood's going to be brown, the water is going to be blue, but the sky is going to be pink because we're going to be doing the Sakura cherry blossom petals. When I did this with the rhodonite color with the Daniel Smith watercolor, which is incredibly beautiful, but even if you wash it down a little bit, it just is the same hue. Even though it can be a little bit more concentrated, the pigment is just really strong. I just didn't feel like I was getting the variety of pink that I needed to represent cherry blossoms the way I wanted. It was also a little darker than it should have been. And because I just bought this Daniel Smith watercolor set, I'm still in that elitist honeymoon phase where I would not dare mix an aquafine titanium white with a premium Daniel Smith rock-based watercolor. The reason I'm actually not mixing them is because of the light fastness. I don't know if mixing a non-light fast with a light fast art supply makes the non-light fast more light fast or vice versa, and I don't want to risk it. I want to create a couple pieces to test the quality and longevity. So to add more dynamic to the petals, I'm going to transition to gouache because it has that opaque quality to it. I can layer that on top of the grass, which is really, really dark, which I was originally pretty concerned about because I thought, wow, that's really, really dark. But it contrasts really nicely with the pink petals in the painting. So down towards the end of this, it looks really, really good. I also felt like the pink of the Sakura petals wasn't quite low enough on the canvas. So using the gouache allowed me to get more petals onto the canvas without compromising anything. I could just cover it up. So because the red with the M-Gram gouache was a little bit more on the cadmium side, it did turn out a little peachy and red and orangey in the original painting. So I do adjust this in the editing process to make it more pink, just for the record. When I go about doing this process, when I'm using traditional work that I'm going to animate in, I don't finish the painting in the process of this video. I finish it later down the road. And in my life, it's actually a complete painting, but I don't want to add all the petals and any animals that I'm going to add to this in the painting because I'm going to have to cut those out and either redraw them or use those in some way in the animation process. And because copy, paste, cut, select tool and all that stuff, it's just easier to have the background and then draw on top of it. For this animation portion of the video, I'm starting off with the water. So I'm just gonna add the highlights, and the highlights are going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, just a couple of frames to simulate some movement and that the water is running down the used to be tree, which is now a river due to the terrible placement of the original sketch. When the water meets the pond, I'm doing the splashing kind of like a mini waterfall. For that effect, I'm just using the Signet brush. I'll show it right here. And I just do a couple frames, basically just painting over it every time, and then it kind of creates that rolling water animation. Really easy, super quick to do. And it's things like this, utilizing these resources where you don't have to overthink these things. There are a plethora of ways that you can do this, but this is a very simple way to do it that achieves the same effect that I think is enough to translate what's going on, which proves that simple and easy is totally valid. So don't overthink it if you don't have to. And this just goes to show you that even if things don't turn out the way that you intended, there's still a purpose in the work. This is why I don't just rip the page off of my sketchbook, tear it up and throw it away. I turn lemons into lemonade because I think at the end of the day, this river really was meant to be there. For the petal portion of this is where Procreate Dreams really shows a lot of its flaws. Due to the lack of a selection tool, still, this app came out in November, so we still don't have a selection tool now. You can only move a frame in its entirety. You can't move specific elements of it one at a time within a single frame. So if you want multiple petals falling together, you've got to layer your tracks. And this is a very tedious process of creating multiple tracks, which you have to do one at a time. and then you've got to create your petals on each track. From there, you can select all of those and you can drag them out so that the drawing is a very long frame on the track. One frame at a time, you select your petal, you hit the record button, and then you drag the petal down so it looks like it's floating. It's a very easy thing to do, but it's tedious because of how it has to be done, and it could be argued that doing it frame by frame could be much quicker. So with tools like this, you kind of have to assess what is the most time efficient way of doing this. I don't know if this was that method, but that's the method that I'm used to, so that's what I went with. I think in the future I probably would just do frame by frame for that. Add some petals to the pond. I record them floating around with the flow of the water that's coming from the stream behind it, and that provides some movement in the water that makes it look like the petals aren't just falling into nothing. So, engaging with the moving elements, with the environment, adds more cohesion to the entire image and the visual experience of the animation itself. So for the animals that I add to this, I do add a squirrel running across the screen as well as a duck swimming in the water, but these were done frame by frame, and if you want to see more frame by frame animation, let me know in the comments and I'll be more than happy to show you that part of the process, but I just did frame by frame. But that is how I made this painting, and that is the animation process for the video. I'm about to show the animation twice, just like I always do. So I hope you guys enjoy the animation. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys like the channel, all that stuff, I'm pretty sure you know how to go about that. Thank you so much for your time as always. I appreciate you. Stay cozy. Peace.